Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is George Smith, and I am back again with some Raceface action, some GT4s out on circuits, and this time around going out to round 2 for Raceface's first GT4 season, which is quite exciting. We're here at Brands Hatch, and I have the pleasure of welcoming a familiar voice who's casted with me before in the form of Ryan Gill. How are you doing, Ryan?
Hello, George. It's nice to be back to commentate on some South African racing. I've been missing it, to be honest, since the few races I covered in the GT3 League, and I have to say, I've enjoyed some GT4 commentary for our GT4 League we're running at RCI, and I have to say, I'm excited to get back into it here with some of the South African boys tonight.
You know, Ryan, it's a good point that you bring up because, to be honest, it's something that we have seen a lot of excitement from in the international stuff that we've done. And last week we had a great race out at Barcelona, incredibly tight race, in fact. And Morgan McCall had a phenomenal finish towards the end, and Jason Abismeyer not having the greatest of races. So it was a mixed bag of emotions overall, but a good race. And I think that Brands Hatch is a circuit that... it's not one of my favorites. I know that you're a big fan of it, obviously, but for me, I think that the GT4s might sway my opinion a little bit.
Oh, man, I mean, this track for GT4s, George, it's absolutely phenomenal. I had the pleasure of watching the GT4 at Brands Hatch last year, and I have to say it was absolutely phenomenal to watch them around here, because they can race around here. Compared to GT3 cars and some of the other cars that, visit Brands Hatch throughout the season. It's not my favourite British track, has to be said, but it is definitely one of the best tracks, I think, that we have here for the GT4 cars. And, I think with some of the quality that we have here, just looking through some of the names on the list, I don't think we'll be disappointed tonight, George.
I don't think we will be disappointed at all. I think that we've got a great race coming up on our hands. And, of course, we're over to qualifying already. Things went a little bit quicker than we had planned on our end. The driver's briefing ended on time. Everybody behaved themselves, and we were able to get out on circuit. So 20 minutes for these guys to set their quali times, 15 minutes on the clock for them to still go out and get some times in. I just want to toggle our sheets on the side here so we can see that Charles Wilkin is currently leading the charge with a 131.386 out in his Aston Martin, quickly followed up by Quade Claessens, who's just 2.97 off the pace. Quade, a new entry coming out into the league. I don't remember seeing him last week, so I believe he is a new entry in here, and he comes from the ATK side of things, the ATK team, so good to have him here. I need to just fix my broadcaster tool here. It's acting up a little bit.
That's all right, George. So, whilst we currently wait, we're in qualifying at the moment, of course, and we have Charles Wilkin at the top of the table so far, 131.386 at the moment in the Aston Martin. He's leading the way by just under 0.3 of a second to Quade Claessens. We were watching him come across the line. He's fourth at the moment, 0.6 off the pace. And as we look further down, but actually now,
I was just getting us back into the broadcaster app, making sure that we could change camera angles and select the drivers that we wanted to. It would be a bit of a disaster going over to the race if we couldn't get that sort of feed up. So we're back. I've got the times up. I'll be able to pull up the timetable for us to see where things stand. And of course, it's going to be a bit of a tight bunch of cars here tonight. It is the pro split. These guys have been seeded up here, and that means that relatively they should be in for some good racing. I think we do have some standout drivers that definitely seem to shine on certain circuits or certain car combinations, or just in general stand out of the field. But for now, it's an interesting bunch of cars, and as the season is so sort of early in its foundation phase, there's so much to play for, Ryan.
Yeah, there is. I mean, like you said, it's early in the season. Anything can happen. I mean, we've seen it, haven't we, with some of the RCI races where people have managed to miss a race and you know, it's been towards the start of the season. They still have plenty of time to come back and maybe have a late challenge towards the end of the championship. So, you know, early in the season, if a couple of people didn't quite get the result they were looking for in the first round, you know, they've still got the rest of the season to look forward to, and you know, there's always going to be chances. But looking up at the top of qualifying at the moment, familiar name at the top, Jordan Sherritt, 130.831 at the moment in the Mercedes.
Definitely a name that has started to cause some stirs up in the sim racing world in South Africa. Jordan has been posting some phenomenal results, both locally and internationally, and he definitely seems to have a real mastery of some of the cars that he gets his hands on. And I can tell you now, having seen his practice regime and how hard he trains for events, you know, the results really do speak for themselves when you know, you go and see what he's capable of doing. So also just a little cheeky plug there available, because Jordan Sherritt is actually the Raceface Speed Labs instructor along with Bruno Cadilli. The Speed Labs from Raceface is a initiative to provide driver coaching to drivers that are looking to get a little bit of a on-track advantage and see if they can improve their race styles with guys that can really sort of help them find those small tenths or even big seconds if you're making big mistakes. So to switch away from Jordan and go to a bigger, another big name, I won't say bigger, that doesn't exist, Charles Wilkin, the number 25 Aston Martin. He's also a very experienced real-life race car driver and has also just sort of come into the sim world by storm. He's been around in the sim world for a while, but new to my world, should I say, and certainly stirred up where he's gone and done some great things as well. Wade Claessens, we've seen, talked about before in previous seasons or previous series where I've been able to see some of the ATK drivers driving, but of course in the GT4s he is new here, and good to see him setting up towards the front of quali, sitting in third place, 8/10 off of Jordan. JC Grobler from Retro Sim Rainbow, a driver that again is incredibly quick, has vowed to change his name in sim racing, has had a bit of a bad reputation in the past, but new year, new me is changing up the game. And then finally, a little cheeky Jason Absmeyer. Now, Jason, of course, turns 30 years old today. It's his birthday. So from us in the comms box, happy birthday to Jason Absmeyer. And, of course, my teammate from White Rabbit Gaming. Full disclosure, before anyone calls me biased or finds that I'm commentating in a race where someone is, you know, in my team. Nope. It's completely out there in the open. Bruno and Jason drive for White Rabbits, and it is this man's birthday. He's been plagued with a bit of bad luck, Ryan, and hoping that with the turn of his birth year, he will find a little bit of luck tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what, George, he's going to get bonus points from me right off the bat for two things. First of all, that gorgeous livery that he's running on that car, and second of all, the car he's driving. I love the Ginetta. As someone who's British, it probably doesn't come as a surprise to anyone, but very, very fond of that car, and of course, happy birthday to Jason on turning 30. I'll be reaching that milestone at some point in my life. I'm not looking forward to it, but enough about birthdays and age. Jason Absmeyer 5th at the moment in qualifying. He's just under a second off the pace at the moment. Now, the Ginetta, very interesting car in the GT4s, because of course it does struggle in a straight line. Obviously here at Brands Hatch that isn't too much of an issue here. We don't have very long straights at Brands. In fact, there's only really one big straight that you could even call it. It's a bit of a stretch to call it big as well. And I think the Ginettas will probably do well here. They're very, very quick in the corner, and they can go very, very late on the brakes as well. So I expect to see the Ginettas a bit higher up than they are at the moment tonight. However, 5th and 7th for Jason Absmeyer and Bruno Cadilli is not too bad so far.
So it will then be Darren Peens in 8th place. Oh, sorry, Junior McCall. We didn't go through him in the Mercedes in 6th. He, of course, drives for ATK. We've then got Darren Peens. So I've been saying his name incorrectly, and he's taught me how to say it. So it's Ryan, you might struggle with it as well. It's got like Afrikaans pronunciation. I'm not the greatest with it, but it's 2 syllables, so it's Pience. Pience. I don't know how to say it. Like Pience. There we go. So that's it. There we go. We got it 100%. We've nailed it. And we won't be stopped now. So Christos Besson, 9th place in his BMW. This man had an incredible race in the GT3s last week, Thursday, for the Raceface GT3 series. So what's quite cool here, if you guys are new, Raceface runs GT4s on Wednesdays and GT3s on Thursdays. It's the same track each week. So drivers running in both leagues just have to practice one circuit, and they just have to alternate their cars. So tomorrow night we'll be here in the big GT3s. Tonight it's the GT4s, and this man from Amped to Play had an incredible race. It really was a goodie. Mark Antal, he's the man that we were stuck on earlier. He's also from Retro Sim Slipstream. The 111 BMW sitting in 12th place at the moment in quali. 7 minutes on the clock still to go. So these times probably are going to shift up a bit. But it's nice to just get a run through the grid order. Let everybody have a see what's out to play. Victor de Kock in that Camaro, the 897 blue and white. Very much our RCI colors, right, Ryan? Makes us feel at home if we were American.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, it's a very nice looking livery. I mean, I myself probably would have chosen a bit of a different tone of blue on there, maybe a different material as well. But of course,
it was a nice spicy blue. I liked it. Then Johannes Kraling in his number 16 BMW. It's a little BMW party here from 12th to 14th, as you can see. Basson, Antoine Kraling, all sitting in their BMWs. I just want to keep an eye on those leaderboards as well, Ryan. If you see someone jump up as we're going down, just have a little shout at me. We've got Shihan, who is our second standing Cayman, the number 46. He doesn't have a team name here, so if I was meant to read that from the spreadsheet, I've now not been able to. So Warren, if you are in a team or you want a team name there, just throw it into your livery name and it will be on the leaderboard for me, and I'll be able to give you guys a little shout out as we go through. Nathan LaRue from Team Hicks, the 213. I believe this is the first Audi that we've seen. It feels like it is. He's down in 17th place at the moment. Then we've got Adrian De Beer. He is the number 11 Mercedes. Big cut coming out there. A little bit of mowing service being employed. We then got Stuart Andrews in his Hot Fuzz GT4. 889 in 19th place. Jared van Bagen in the 777 BMW. Bastian Janssen in 21st. He's got nice dashing black and green. Almost always my go-to when I'm setting up a default livery, I must be honest. Then we've got Sean Schutter, our first EKZ driver on the board, or should I say Corne Strauss was up there in 15th. I think he's jumped up as we've gone through the order, but Sean Schutter here, the number 113, very much going to stand out on the racetrack. You're not going to miss that BMW. Stark Butter in 23rd from Amped to Play again. The Amped to Play boys have definitely been showing up in numbers, and we appreciate all the support that they give both in the racing and in the streams too. You know, their viewers and spectators are always here to cheer on their drivers, and it's always nice to see. Johan Bego Hrobler from Team Try Hard Racing. He, of course, has that nice sponsorship with Resource Complete, the guys that also sponsor this race league with Raceface. So when we go through the order here, there's quite a couple of cars, Ryan. I mean, I haven't gone through all of them just yet, but as I scroll, I start to realize we have 32 cars at Brands Hatch tonight.
Yeah, it's quite a packed grid, isn't it, George? I mean, I think in the real series they ran close to 40, so we're not too far off replicating the kind of numbers that you would see around here in the actual GT4 season. And I have to say, as you were going through the list and all the names and that, you know, some very creative liveries out there. We do love to talk liveries. It's probably our favourite subject, and in fact, I'm pretty sure you and I could probably spend hours debating liveries, but we won't debate.
For sure. No. We'll just agree that they've all put in a good effort and we're liking them. So we can let me just finish off the order. We've got 3 minutes, and I want to get back to the front of the pack and see where guys are. So Rickard Fran Kolle for Sandbag Racing down in 26th. Hansi Myberg in 27th in his Micah Racing Works McLaren. Warwick Stewart in his Porsche for SRA. They, of course, have quite a standout livery as well. You're not going to miss that. Sebo Maloto from Kaike Racing, the leader of Kaike Racing. He's also got a pack of drivers. They also, like the Am to Play guys, always here to support. And I love seeing, drivers supporting and doing things for each other. Pete Duplessis in his Porsche, the number 75, going to be leaving the pit. Mornay Deploy still in the pits, just rocking the standard bullet livery. I do quite like it on the car. Number 33, Daniel Rowe, another man who's extremely talented, hasn't set a lap time here in quali. It's down in 32nd place, the number 4, and Kurt's out on track at the moment. Now I got a pronunciation of Kurt's name, and I've been trying to say it, Ryan, but I haven't been good. Ryan, let me try and get that pronunciation for his.
I was just about to say, you're gonna try and throw it towards me now.
No. I wasn't gonna throw it to you. I was actually gonna give it to you and just make sure that you had a POV to read off of. So it's Glasshagen. Glasshagen. That's how you say it.
So it's like you extend the word glass, and then you just have Hagen on the end.
It could be Glasshagen. I like the British glass instead of glass, but yeah, Glasshagen.
Okay.
As long as
Glasshagen.
As long as you extend it out. So we now back up and running. Ryan can see what we're looking at on the screen. Up at the front, things don't seem to have changed up too much. Quaid has jumped himself up to starting in 2nd. Charles Wilkin into 3rd place. Jason Absmeyer 4th. Morgan McCall up into 5th. JC Krobler knocked down a little bit down into 6th. But let's see if anybody here is currently out on a flyer lap. I don't see anybody up on their Delta times. I think a lot of them are coming to finish off their laps now. So we might start to see some improvements. Warwick Stewart down in 28th. He's looking like he's up on his lap time by a 10th. Stuart Andrews, he's just gone dead even with his lap time. Johannes Grayling was sort of peaking around maybe being a 10th up, but it's nothing up towards the front of the order that seems to be changing too much. Charles Wilkin and Jason Absmeyer are currently in the pits.
Yes, they are, and both of those just over half a second off pole position at the moment. Jordan Sherritt looking pretty formidable out there, isn't he? Almost 4/10 clear of Quade Clarson's in 2nd. He's the 2nd of the Mercedes cars up in the top 5, and looking down the order of manufacturers, George, this is something quite interesting that I've noticed. We've mentioned in the RCI GT4 Championship as how the BMWs at Monza were a car to beat, and then they've kind of fallen a bit flat throughout the rest of the season. I'm kind of seeing something a bit similar here. I think one BMW in the top 10 at the moment, as the time on qualifying has just expired.
You're not wrong. The BMW belonging to Johannes Grayling from Retro Sim Slipstream sits up in 7th place, so he seems to be a little bit of an anomaly, as we see Basson and Antel packed down in 13th and 14th. Jordan Sherritt, he's still out. Well, he's just going to go back to the pack now. Quade Clarkson still in the pit. Charles Wilkin in the pit. Morgan McCall in the pit. Jason Absmeyer in the pit. The front of the pack is all in the pit, guys, but it's all on track in the mid-pack. Warren Lee Sheehan up 2/10 on his time. Nathan LaRue up a 10th. It looks like makes it 2/10. Both Warren Lee Sheehan and Nathan LaRue up 2/10 on their times. Johan Bego Krobler, the car sitting in 17th place, is currently in the pits, so Sheehan and LaRue could jump themselves up. Strauss has just finished off his final lap, so he's jumped back to the pits. It really is up to these two gentlemen. Sheehan still has a little bit to go, as does LaRue. They're going to just follow each other and finish off their lap times. Down the splits, I see Mornay Deploy and Daniel Rowe are also in the pits, Daniel Rowe not being able to set a lap time there. Warren Lee Sheehan doesn't improve, but Nathan LaRue will. He jumps himself up to 15th place, so works out for him, staying out a little bit longer and will jump himself up the order. So, Ryan, we are going to go over to our race session. All the drivers have a minute or so to just get their final setups dialed in. For those that are not familiar with the racing format in the GT4s, we have a 45-minute sprint race. There's no pit stops. It is flat-out sprint racing. If you win it, then you have to make a pit stop, possibly. But if you plan to win the race, you're planning not to crash off. So it is going to be an interesting race start. And I think Brands Hatch, a difficult circuit to have overtakes on. For me personally, that's where I would say it's not my favorite circuit in terms of watching the races as a, if I'm choosing a circuit to watch. But like I said, I've got Ryan Gill here, our famed British caster that sometimes ventures over the pond to cast some of these South African races with me. And of course, that means that I have to have a little bit of bias towards some of the British tracks, and I have to give these GT4s a go to impress me at Brands.
Yeah, I mean, the like you said, Brands Hatch, probably not the best circuit that could be picked for racing, especially in the modern era with how a lot of cars are. But these GT4s, they do well here. They do a lot better here than the GT3s do, and some of the other cars, as we see Jordan Sherritt pulling away now to start the formation lap. And like you said, George, 45-minute sprint race, no required pit stops. Sprint racing in its purest format, and I think we're going to be in for a good race. Jordan Sherritt looking very, very dominant in qualifying, but obviously qualifying's only part of the story. You obviously have to go on and show that pace in the race, but of course I've seen him race a few times around the South African races and different championships, so I'm pretty sure he'll have a good time out front. But the question is, what's going to happen in the pack behind him? 2 Aston Martins behind him. Jason Absmeyer in the Ginetta in the top 5. Of course, Grayling in the BMW there in 7th. One of the anomalies, as you mentioned before. And a Camaro in 11th as well. Going to be keeping an eye on the 897 throughout the course of this race as well.
What's quite interesting is Junior and Morgan McCall are 2 brothers. Again, Junior, one of the youngest sim racers that we have in the grid, or in the pro circuit, should I say. I think he's as young as, I forget how young he is. Is he perhaps younger than 14, or is he 14? Maybe 13? At one stage
absolutely incredible.
No, he's really young, but he's been improving and getting up to pace. He's been signed up by ATK Arena, which is, of course, a big sim racing team here. I mean, a big MGO. They have a big sim racing team. They have a couple of big teams. So to be signed up there is, it's pretty incredible that sim racing is getting the reach that it needs to get, and it wouldn't be possible without all of our beautiful viewers, our supporters, and all of the drivers out in the packs that make these things possible. Of course, there are multiple splits that are there. I can't stream them all. I would love to do so, but it's not just the pro split that's going out to the YAM guys and drivers that are putting in the time and effort to get better and try and get up to the splits that have all these drivers. I applaud you all. So we are going to start things very shortly as our cars start to line themselves up in double file, approaching the final bend at Brands Hatch before we get our green flags waving and the race underway. Double file as far back and front as we can see. It is going to be a mad race. 32 GT4 cars take to the grid today. Daniel Rowe is still in the pit, so let's call it 32 cars. He's dropped out, so it is 32 cars will take to the grid. We're waiting for those green lights. There they come. The lights are green. It will be Sherritt to lead us away. On the outside is Quaid Claessens, and a good start coming out from Wilkin as well to hold on to his P3. Jason Absmeyer will be fighting with Morgan McCall there as they come down into the tough right-hander, and very neat driving coming out from our drivers so far, Ryan.
Yeah, just having a bit of a look down the field, fairly clean through Paddock Hill Bend and up towards Druids as well. Just a couple of cars off track, but no one making any contact. So very nice and clean through everyone here tonight, and that's always very nice to see. But of course, it is Jordan Sherritt that leads the way, the man that was on pole position. Obviously, the start line very, very late here towards the end of the start-finish straight at Brands Hatch. So, of course, he was likely to lead into turn one. But Jason Amsmeyer, he's under pressure already from the likes of McCall.
Ryan, you aren't wrong, and this was a fight we saw happen for a long time last week, but they were up towards the front, this time battling out in a little bit of the front split pack. Of course, they will be chasing down the likes of Charles Wilkin for third, and they do have JC Hrobler putting the pressure on, sitting in 6th place. You see his Aston Martin in shot as they make their way down. The first lap almost complete. Of course, a very short lap here at Brands Hatch, one of the shorter on the ACC circuit calendar that we run. 6 weeks of racing. I think this will be the shortest track that we run on. Up the inside, perhaps, McCall has a little look, but Jason Absmeyer making sure to cover it off.
Yeah, Jason Amsmeyer making sure that he had space there to cover off McCall, and he does so very well, doesn't compromise his exit through the first few corners as well, and of course he'll maintain his speed. McCall has also got to keep in mind that Grobler is behind in the 34 Aston Martin, and of course he'll be looking to capitalise on any potential mistake that happens, and that is one of the big problems around Brands Hatch, is that you can spend so much time trying to get past someone along this really, really tight and short circuit that you open yourself up to a mistake, and mistakes will cost you big around here.
I mean, there's not a lot of room for runoff either, so if you do come off and come into contact with the wall, it could mean that you have to jump down into the pits too. So looking through the pack, everybody just settling down into that train formation that we see. Not too many battles are taking place. Andrew's going to try and have a little look on the inside. Van Coller going to run very wide, and that's going to allow Andrews through. Van Bergen will capitalize on that too. So just as you mentioned it, small mistakes, you lose 2 positions, and Van Coller will jump back down to 19th place.
Yeah, did very, very well there to capitalize on a mistake, and you know that's kind of the aim of the game around here. You have to capitalize on other people's mistakes. You have to take advantage of a situation that comes your way. And speaking of a situation that comes your way, I've looked at the timing board now. Grayling is up to 5th place, and Morgan McCall has dropped to 6th. Jason Amsmeyer has actually dropped well through the field now. He's going down the order, George. It's beyond 20th at the moment, according to my timing sheet.
Yeah, so something massive going wrong there for Jason for sure. And said it earlier, I hope that the luck would be there. And it looks like the birthday luck not coming out just yet. The back of that, Janetta not looking happy either. And it will be an early upset coming down. That will favor the likes of Hrobler though, because he's now jumped up 2 places for free as McCall's dropped down the order, as well as Absmeyer. So Hrobler now will be chased down by Johannes Grayling, and then Morgan McCall in the black Mercedes behind him. Victor de Kock in the Camaro, also still in the charge here. He's potentially got a battle on his hands with the likes of Christos Besson in his BMW, but for now he's also looking to just keep his head down, keep focused. We're only are just getting into that 4 or 5 minute mark into the race session. 40 minutes still to go. The sprint race is most certainly feeling like it's a bit of a sprint race for now. Everybody dashing out to try and get themselves into the best possible starting positions. Kurt Glashagen is trying to get past the likes of Sebastian Janssen. Schutter's there too. Glashagen round the outside. Schutter tries to split the pack. There has been a contact, I think, between Van Bergen and Van Coller. They seem to have switched positions twice already, but Glashagen going to get the drive through, and that's going to allow the likes of Schutter through as well. And Buerta going to capitalize too. So Buerta also in this, it is a BMW fight. We called it a BMW Cup. 19th to 22nd, Ryan.
Yeah, the the BMWs, they do seem to struggle on tracks that don't have enormous straights. In fact, the only tracks I've seen the BMWs do particularly well at are the likes of Bathurst and Monza. Of course, you said that you ran at Barcelona last week, was it? Unfortunately, didn't get to catch that, so I'm not entirely sure how the BMWs would have done there. I did have a quick look in the replay, by the way, to just see what happened to Jason Absmeyer, and I can tell you that it was the second to last corner, Sterling's, that Morgan McCall had a bit of a dive up the inside. There was a little bit of contact between him and Jason Absmeyer, and then, unfortunately, just a second piece of contact on the exit of the corner. It turned the Ginetta around, and, well, that's all she wrote, unfortunately.
Oh, that's unfortunate to hear. So contact coming out, and that's going to wreck Jason Absmeyer's chances here. But Morgan McCall still on the charge. He's still out on track. I wonder if he's picked up any damage, and that looked like a little bit on the front side of his Mercedes. But up the inside, he will send it on the start of their fourth lap, make the move on Krayling, and begin getting up towards Grobler. Of course, he was potentially fighting up the likes of Wilkin with Jason Absmeyer in between, but it looks like a good race coming out from the front three. Really just not having too much to deal with has let them just pick up the gap that they wanted to have, and you can just see the front three in shot. Jordan Sherritt down the road getting onto the straight. Quaid Claessens joins shortly after, and then Wilkin. Then just down the order will be JC Grobler. He's in a bit of empty air for himself, and then we'll see Morgan McCall's Mercedes in the background. There it comes round. So McCall getting past Krayling. He's got himself a couple of car lengths there. But I do feel like it's the mid-pack that we're going to keep ourselves busy with today, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm watching the battle for 7th place. It's a bit of a train at the moment, and Junior McCall has actually just made a mistake, and he's got the Camaro right on the back of the Mercedes. And as we come into Sterling's now, this little train here of 4 cars at the moment, and this is one of those situations again. Look how close they are together and how close they can follow each other around here at Brands Hatch, and this is the problem. Anyone in this little train makes a mistake here, it's going to be hard to recover, but it seems like Junior McCall, who's under pressure the most here. The Mercedes, which, you know, they did well in qualifying, but they just seem to be struggling on race pace around here at the moment. Jordan Sherritt, of course, in the lead, doing extremely well.
I think Ansel's trying to have a look on the cock there. Oh, if he hadn't lost the back end, Ryan, there was potentially a run coming down. So de Kock very lucky that the BMW getting upset by the inside apex. Gonna slow down the charge coming down there. I see Nathan Leroux. He is fighting with Cornet Strauss as well as Bego Grobler. They are on track, and it looks like the Merc from Strauss having a nice little run on Leroux will potentially look to break a little bit later, try and see if he can find an inside line coming in. There will be contact though, and it will send Strauss into the barriers in the middle of the track. He needs to try and get himself out of the racetrack. He does have a pack of GT4s coming down behind him, but that looked like a big smack coming in to the side of Cornet Strauss's Mercedes there.
Yeah, unfortunate incident there. I mean, from my perspective, I don't think there was. I don't think there was anyone particularly on the wrong side or anything like that. Of course, you know, there will be any steward inquiries post race, I do imagine. But yeah, it's just unfortunate there for Cornet Strauss, and well, you know, lucky to not lose any positions from that mistake. He did lose a significant amount of time, and he has got a couple of cars right behind him now. But the most important thing, like you said, George, he's got to mitigate that damage now. It's interesting to see how much that will have affected the car. I don't think it'll have affected the car too much. It wasn't a big hit on the wall, but it will have definitely compromised the front aero of that car somewhat.
You know, there's some element where the GT4s do have a little bit more leniency in terms of the damage they can take. Stuart Andrews very wide. Glasshagen going to capitalize off this. Janssen going to get by 2. Sheehan also gets by. Schutter will possibly get by 2. Andrews finally joins the track. He went so wide he had to pay to get back on, really. Kadili coming through the order there as well. Is that Kadili coming in to... where's Kadili sitting in this order? So Bruno's also not had the greatest of starts. He's down to 20th place. And he's trying to slot himself back through. So Not a good start coming out for the White Rabbit cars in their Ginettas. Down the order indeed. In fact, our Ginettas sitting now in 20th, 29th for Jason Absmeyer, and Sebo Maloto from Kaike Racing in 31st. So the manufacturer's not looking too happy here at the British track, and Van Coller putting a lot of pressure now onto the likes of Kedili. Kedili doesn't really have too much space to move. He wants to get by Andrews. He's seen Andrews running very wide earlier on, driving off circuit, coming up to T1, and knows that if pressure's there, he will crack. But just look at them all sending it in a train. It's a beautiful sight to see. Neat and tidy coming out from what we've seen on stream so far. I know that if we go through the replay, it will probably tell a different story entirely. I think that's just the nature of sim racing. You don't get to see everything that goes down. Andrews wide again on the final corner, and now down the start-finish straight. Kedili under pressure. Van Coller quite heavily will have to defend, hold his inside line. Van Coller going to try get by around the outside and then cut back and try and set himself up for the inside. He's not quite alongside. Will he brake a little bit later coming down and in? He won't. Inside going to be covered in. And let me try and see. Piens still also showing on my timing sheet here, Ryan. Battling off with the likes of Johan Bego Krobler.
Yeah, he is, and that train that we saw just then, you know, it's one of those examples where I think it was Andrews, wasn't it, just made a slight mistake, 4 places gone in a matter of seconds, and it's not the usual thing that you would get around any other circuit. In, you know, in this scenario, you just can't make the mistakes around here, and you know, it might get a bit repetitive, but this is one of the tracks where consistency pays off the most. This is one of those circuits where if you're not consistent, if you do make mistakes frequently, it will punish you, and it will punish you so much harder than any other track on the calendar. Of course, we are looking at Piens at the moment. He's under pressure from Bega Grobler. The highest of the Audis at the moment, Bega Grobler, number 15, and of course he has LaRouche behind him. He's a few seconds back, though. And the Audi's been a very interesting car for the GT4s, from my experience. I mean, I've seen an Audi pick up a couple of wins in a few of the GT4 races that I've had the pleasure of watching and commentating on, but it has not seemed to live up to the expectation that maybe its bigger brother in the GT3 class would have carried. Currently looking... Ooh, Piens made a big mistake. So Piens made a mistake. Bego Grobler, he's going to look to capitalize again here. He's going to be on the inside. Is he going to have the inside line? He's going to cut the corner just a bit there. Not too much, though. And he will still have the inside line, but he's not going to be able to carry the pace. And Piens will maintain the position, but he goes wide, and that will allow Bego Grobler to take the position back. Mistakes becoming critical to an overtake yet again here at Brands Hatch.
And you know, it was the same place that we saw the previous mistake happen. Darren Piens making the same error and losing a position there to the likes of Bego Grobler. That battle that they had was definitely brewing for a while, and you can just see you step a little bit wide and you just lose so many car positions down the order. Warren Lee Sheehan, he's having a go and a look. Well, is Kedili having a go and a look, should I say, on the likes of Sheehan. Kedili going to get past Sheehan. Sheehan not defending that as we continue looking down at the same order. I mean, Ottens now from Kaike, he leads off against Van Coller. Van Coller behind has Janssen, Van Bergen, Schutter, and Stark Buerter in the mirrors. Ottens now needs to make sure that he doesn't get into a position where he lets the rest of that train catch up as well as Van Coller. So if Van Coller has a little look-see, the defense coming out from Martin's going to close the door, not allow Van Coller to come through. But look at that 3-man BMW train in the background. Janssen, Van Bergen, and Schutter. Oh, sorry, Janssen not in a BMW. I just assumed he was. We couldn't see his lights at the camera angle. But Van Bergen and Schutter are really hugging the back end of that Aston Martin. Martin's running wide. That's going to allow Van Coller through in front. And we see that change in position. Janssen, contact coming in. Van Bergen. Schutter has also had some contact through. That's going to allow Stark Buerta to just run his way right through this. He's going to benefit indeed. He's going to get himself up to 20th place. He's passed Schutter too. So good work from Buerta there as Schutter almost caught up in the incident, Ryan.
Yeah, very, very tricky stuff going on around here, and it's just going to be one of those days for a few of these guys, isn't it? Where you just keep making mistakes, or you have that one big mistake that ends up costing you a lot of time, and like I said, it's going to be one of those races. Mistakes are going to be crucial to this, and well. You know what, Judge? We haven't really been starved of action so far. We're almost 17 minutes down into the race. It's gone by in an absolute flash. And I have to say, these GT4 cars, they've never disappointed when it's come to racing. It doesn't matter what track I've been watching them on. It doesn't matter what track I've had the pleasure of racing them in. They just don't seem to disappoint. And hopefully, in the future, they'll carry on this way for sure. As I'm actually watching the 81 BMW, actually no, it's the 113 BMW of Schutter, and he's actually under pressure from Tablanchi, I believe that is, in the 92 Tablanche. Okay.
There we go.
Forgive my South African is a bit lacking at the moment. So Tablanche in the 92 Aston Martin, pressuring the 113 BMW, and It's gonna be one of those kind of races, isn't it? Where instead of trying to make your way past someone by forcing an overtake, by sending dive bombs on people, not that you should dive bomb people, it's going to be one of those races where putting the pressure on people and almost forcing them into a mistake is going to be arguably more crucial than being able to pull off an overtake.
I think that's the critical part of driving Brands Hatch, is being able to drive clinically close to somebody to a point where you put them on knife's edge, where they're forced to make the error. But it is that knife's point where you can't have contact with them and force them off track. You've then lost the entire point of what you're trying to do in pressuring them to make the mistake. So Tablanche going to save a big slide in his Aston Martin, the number 92, then going to be potentially caught up by the likes of Warwick Stewart if those mistakes happen, and he won't make his way towards Schutter and Buerta. But it looks like Schutter and Buerta definitely keeping themselves quite honest. I've got notification that Bego Grobler and Darren Pience again will be getting into the Gladiator Arena at Brands Hatch. They've got Junior McCall just in front of them as well, who looks to be a little bit slower, I would say. His last lap a 133.6. Bego Grobler's a 133.1 and Darren Pience 132.9. So Pience here with a massive amount of pressure on the likes of Bego Grobler. Team Try Hard Racing going to try and hold Pience off. Going to force him to go around the outside and not even allow him the opportunity to get a look to the cutback. But Pience might have the run coming up to T2. And a side by side they would go. Bego Grobler leaving the space that he needs to do. That's good driving coming up from both drivers coming down. Now, where will Pience go? Backs out, lets Grobler take the line through into that tough left-hander. Of course, we see a lot of people just trying to yeet it through, go side by side, and contact comes out. But Pience doing the smarter thing. He's got 25 minutes to catch up to Bego Grobler, potentially force him to make the mistake or find a way past. In terms of raw lap pace alone, I would say that Pience definitely has the pace to get up to the likes of Mark Antel if they can make their way through the pack in the order. But every single fight that he's caught up here, Ryan, will sort of harbor that process that he's trying to make.
Yeah, definitely will. But something you can't undermine is how well Bigger Grobbler defended that position. You know, it has to be said he's on the outside of Druids, which isn't really the ideal place you want to be for that long right-hander. But he had a perfect line coming into the Graham Hill bend, and of course that did set him up very nicely for Surtees as well. So he had the right line from what was an unfavorable line through turn 2. And of course, you know, from that, he managed to capitalize and keep the position. And now, of course, Peens going to try and come back at him. And like you said, he probably has the pace, the raw pace over the likes of Bigger Grobbler, but he's got to ideally wait for a mistake, or he's got to force an overtake. And forcing an overtake is so difficult around here, because the really good opportunities or the really good places to get an overtake on leave you very vulnerable if you don't pull it off smoothly. And also it gives you it gives your opponent, sorry, a very good chance to come back at you in the next sequence of corners, like we did see from Bigger Grobbler.
There's plenty of opportunities for redemption. Ryan Otten's trying to find just that. He was off track earlier. We saw that. He's now racing side by side with Sheehan, and Sheehan going to oh, it's going to be 3 cars wide. Otten's once again wide. Oh, it's a big collision. He's had a contact with the wall, and this will then mean that it will be Sheehan and Van Coller to knife it out. Down into the first of the 2 right-handers. Van Coller gets a little bit of a cut through, but Warren Lee Sheehan with the cutback of all cutbacks is going to make that work, but then run out wide will allow Van Coller to take that position back once again. And it's a, I don't want to say a comedy of errors there from Warren Lee Sheehan, because he had some great driving, but it was unfortunate that he had to run wide and lose the position again.
Yeah, but that's one of those things that I said, you have to pull the overtake off smoothly. If you don't pull it off smoothly and you make a little mistake, you go a bit too wide, you don't have the ideal line or a good exit, you will be compromised, you will be punished, and it comes back to mistakes. It's not just the people defending that need to worry about mistakes, it's the people overtaking as well. They need to be concerned about potentially, messing up an overtake, because as we reach the halfway mark of the race, the last thing you want to do is get past someone and then immediately make an error. They go back past you. You've got all the work to do over again.
It's so critical. This is this Hawthorne that they just went through now, and then Westfield that they come into. Am I in the right part of the track?
Yes, so Hawthorne is the right-hander at the top of the circuit, at the end of Pilgrim's Drop. So of course, the first corner being Paddock Hill Bend, long right-hander. Then you have Druids, Graham Hill Bend, Surtees. Hawthorne is the right-hander at the end of Pilgrim's Drop.
So that was where we were then. So I just wanted to say that double complex of right-handers, Hawthorne and Westfield, are for me just 2 corners that feel like they change throughout the duration of the race. Their grip levels in terms of where your car handles on them, etc., just continues to change. I mean, we did see Pience eventually getting past the likes of Bego Grobbler, and Bego Grobbler then will have to lick his wounds and see if he can get back to Pience. But yeah, Hawthorne Bend and Westfield are just, I just feel like the cars, if you lose concentration for 1 second, right, it's a complex of corners that then sends you into just missing your turn-in points, your brake markers. You're not carrying the same speed that you should be, and it just becomes a complete disaster. So it really becomes critical to get those, and it's such an easy place to really put pressure onto the driver in front, because this braking zone that we see Pience and Bego Grobbler coming into is that one that you can really hug the back end, force them to go wide, and the track limits here are not friendly. There's no runoff. You touch the dirt and it's donezo's.
Yeah, Brands Hatch, very much in the old school style of this is how we prevent people from cutting the track and extending track limits. We just put grass and gravel everywhere, and like you said, George, Hawthorne and Westfield, so critical to your lap around here. And of course, it's one of those very kind of strange circuit in a way, where it has 4 right-handers all in sequence. Of course, you got Hawthorne, Westfield, Dingledell, and Sheens. Then, of course, you have Sterling's as well, the first of the left-handers after those 4 right-handers. And you know, the corners. There are no easy corners around here at Brands Hatch. I mean, you look at every single corner and you think to yourself, there are problems everywhere that you can have. There are no corners where you think, oh, it's just flat through here. It'll be, you know, nice and easy. I mean, the first corner in particular, Paddock Hill Bend, is one of the most notorious corners in the world. For any form of racing, you have to have your suspension set up correctly, and it's one of the main reasons modern Formula One cars can't come to this circuit. But there's so many other places along this track. There are no easy corners around here like you would find at some other circuits.
No, they are not. And Jason Absmeyer has such a battle on his hands. He's trying to make his way back up through the order after having his off with McCall earlier on. A little bit of a tap onto the back of Schütze there. Didn't expect him to go quite so slow through into Surtees, but he has been putting some pressure onto the likes of Schütze. He's trying to make his way through. Schütze doing a good job to just keep his car on the inside line. It is forcing Jason all around the track, and it is going to put a little bit of ice onto the battle between the two. Corne Strauss showing up that he's got Glashagen putting some pressure on to him 5/10 down the road, so nothing to scoff at just yet. You just gotta, you know, remember that one tiny braking mistake and that suddenly becomes a 10th and a potential overtaking position.
So things are.
I mean, I looked away for a second, and Absmeyer and Schütze seem to have changed up their positions, and they will do so. So just an update there, Ryan. The battle that I was following that cooled off, they chucked the ice out, and Jason got the move done in the background of that. Corne Strauss, he's having a good race so far, it seems, in 15th place, like I said, and he's just got to do what he needs to do, and that's just keep cars from passing him. He needs to keep that car on the surface. We saw him come off earlier, and that allowed all these cars in the pack to catch up to him. He had a nice big gap behind him for EKZ Motorsports. Unfortunately, it all sort of unwrapped itself with the incident that took place.
Yeah, so a quick update for the top 10 for everyone, in case maybe you thought to yourself, you know, what's happening up front with the leaders. Well, Jordan Sherritt still leads from Quade Claassen, 7.3 seconds that gap. Charles Wilkin in third, JC Grobler in fourth place. He's being followed by Morgan McCall right now, only half a second between those two. So a bit of a battle on for fourth place at the moment. Then it's Grayling in sixth, Basson seventh, Until in 8th, De Kock in 9th, and Judy McCall rounds out the top 10. And like you said, George, it wasn't really going to be a battle of those up front today. It was really going to be a battle in the midfield. And we can really see that at the moment. 15th place, Corne Strauss, under pressure from Glashagen at the moment. The number 28, Aston Martin, who started well down the order, I think he did, didn't he? After qualifying, and he's done well to pick himself up to 16th right now.
Did start very far down the order and has had a good race indeed. Grobler and McCall, this could be interesting for a potential battle for fourth. JC Grobler holds it, but McCall is right on his heels. And with 15 minutes to go, we've seen McCall's pace in the GT4s. Seen that he's not afraid to have a little look if you give him the opportunity to do so either. So JC Grobler has to be on his best behavior, his all-time guard, to make sure he doesn't get robbed of a position. Of course, JC Grobler having an incredible race here today. It's been a while since I've got to see the man up towards the front of the order. So I will definitely make a note of that, and goes a little bit wide coming into the top of the hill. Is potentially going to allow McCall to just expand on those gaps that he keeps on finding. He's definitely holding McCall up here, Ryan.
Yeah, he is, and he's doing a good job of it as well. It's been for a few laps now that McCall has kind of just been sat behind Grobler, and you know that's one of the things is that he's doing a good job of keeping him behind. And you know, at Brands Hatch, having the race pace over someone, I mean, it was in the GT3s. I had someone give me a little bit of an analysis of how quick you have to be around here to make an overtake without mistakes. And someone said you need to be roughly a second to 2 seconds quicker per lap to make a legitimate overtake on someone without mistakes. I very much doubt that Morgan McCall is 2 seconds a lap quicker than Grobler. And that will suit Grobler at the moment because he'll just keep him behind him for as long as he can, hopefully for his sake, to the end of the race. But Morgan McCall will be hoping he can pressure 34 Aston Martin into a mistake. But everything looking fairly comfortable now, for the moment, at least for the 34 Aston Martin.
Grobler just has to make sure that he doesn't leave the opportunity there. He does that, the race will be his, like you said. That second that's required to get through is not a second that Morgan has on Grobler's raw lap pace time, based on their best laps. Of course, those are probably have been set behind one another or in traffic anyway. They haven't had too much free space to really stretch their wings, but only 2/10 that really shows the difference between best laps between JC Grobler and Morgan McCall, and that could mean all the difference in terms of McCall just getting the opportunity to get alongside. So it's not enough to get alongside and pass, but it will potentially give a nose in to the rear quarter panel. That might be the move availability. So Grobler has to make sure that he doesn't let that become a problem for him. Steven to Blanche. He's got Sean Schutter behind him, putting on a little bit of pressure as well. Looks like Schutter having fallen down a tiny bit because to Blanche, or did to Blanche fall down in between this? Because Schutter and Absmeyer were fighting it out. I'm not quite sure where to Blanche was in this now that I mentioned it. I know he was fighting out on track because I remember the ST Motorsport GT4, that the color scheme that's been run down. He does go wide, picks up a bit of a slidey boy, manages to save it, and Schutter picks up bits of the track and returns those to not their correct home.
Yeah, just mistakes in sequence there, and no one really benefiting from either of those. And it is actually quite easy to do that. In fact, if you're so focused on someone ahead of you, of course, you know, you're constantly focused on how they're moving, what lines they're taking, where they're braking. It can be so easy to kind of just be dragged into the not the slipstream rather, but just dragged in behind them and just continue with them. It's so easy around here to see someone go wide and you just follow them, not follow them off. I mean, you know, you're not trying to follow them off. It's just that the flow of how you're going and how focused you are, it's so easy to make that kind of mistake around here. And I think that was kind of just a bit of an example of what we were seeing. But De Blanche was definitely further up the field, George. You are right about that one. He was not down in 21st, at least not to my knowledge. He wasn't as well, because Shooter was battling it out with I think it was with one of the BMWs further up the field before as well. So yeah, something's definitely happened.
No, I think Schutter was right, because Absmeyer and him were fighting it out. They were making their way through. I don't think they've all dropped down, but I don't quite understand where to Blanche slotted in. So that was just, I just didn't follow his placement. I think he's come in, always had a massive drive and got past Schutter, and Schutter's had the mistake, and that's why he's down the order from where Absmeyer is. It's all theoretical because we didn't see it on screen or camera. So, you know, what counts the most is that Blanche is in 21st, which is ahead of Schutter in 22nd, Absmeyer in 20th, Buerta in 19th, and here we see Sheehan in 18th, and he's got Buerta just behind him putting on the pressure, and we can start to see Absmeyer's Janetta also starting to get keen and interested with 10 minutes to go here. I don't think the front of the water's changed too much. I just want to double check and see that Jordan's AMG is all in good running order. He hasn't had any collisions with the walls. They're going to lose him a second per lap to the likes of Klaassen. So Sherritt, theoretically...
No, he hasn't, George, but I don't mean to interrupt you. Jason Absmeyer is on the inside of Botha at the moment as they go into Druids. There's a little bit of contact between the Ginetta and the BMW. And Jason Absmeyer...
Let me try and get you a quick replay there as I was switching through, Ryan.
Yeah, so Jason Absmeyer, he had a great run out of Paddock Hill Bend. And, of course, coming up towards Druids, he had a great line on the inside, but there was contact as the Ginetta went by. So between the 90 Ginetta and the 81 BMW, a bit of contact there. Not entirely sure, is it significant contact to be deemed a, I don't know, an illegal overtake? I'm probably not the best person to ask. It does seem a bit aggressive sometimes. Maybe it could just be Jason Absmeyer a bit frustrated.
For sure. I mean, we can't discount that there was a bit of rubbing that went down. Jason maybe understeered a little bit through. Xian's going to leave the door, though. That's going to allow Jason to get the run down towards the final corner, and the Ginetta quite comfortably going to pass Xian there. So yeah, going back to that, we're not stewards, so there are stewards inquiries for it, right? But you know, Buerta also turning in for the Apex. Absmeyer understeering a little bit of a racing incident between the two, but neither losing out, nothing massive, no one being spun around or massive damage caused. So it'll be interesting to see if the stewards have a little ruling on it, if those things are submitted. Of course, we always have things to learn about these things as well. Darren Piens has had a good race so far, for sure. He's got himself Nathan Leroux in sight. Only 8 minutes to go on the clock. Bruno Cadilli in his mirrors. 8/10 down the road. But a good showing so far from Piens. Of course, he was one of the drivers that we saw having some actual battles on track, right, Ryan? And looking by the war wounds on the sides of his Cayman, he's survived, he's conquered, and he's still going strong.
Yeah, he was trying to get past Baker Grobler, wasn't it, in the 15 Audi earlier on, but he's dropped well off of the number 15 now, and in fact, of course, he is behind the 213 LaRue. So, yeah, he's definitely had a mistake somewhere, because I know that the 213 Audi was not that close to the back of them. So, like you said, George, some battle scars on that Cayman here today. You can see them on the left-hand side of the car. And Bruno Cadilli will be hoping that he can put that damage on the Cayman to the advantage of his Ginetta. And of course, with Piens catching up to the back of the Audi in front, this will benefit Bruno Cadilli coming into the last few minutes here, because of course, not easy to overtake here. That will slow down the Cayman. And I think we're going to have a bit of a three-way battle for 12th coming into the last few minutes here, as Piens goes a bit wide, going 330s, and now the Ginetta will really start to reel in the Cayman.
So a little bit of action, maybe to heat things up towards the end. I just wanted to mention that, of course, Morgan McCall has gotten past JC Krobler. I did just give it a little updated shot there on stream view, so you guys could have seen Morgan McCall's Mercedes making his way through the order. It's updated. He's in 4th place, and a little bit behind, of course, the likes of Charles, Wilkin, and Quaid Klaassens, but Darren Piens under attack from Bruno Cadilli, while still simultaneously trying to find a way past the likes of Nathan Leroux if they can. And it looks like that's also Johan Bego Krobler down just a couple of car lengths ahead as well. Is it? No, it's not. They were out. That's
It's a Cayman in front, is it not?
Trying to see. Vega Krobler's down the road, so I think you're right. It's just a lapped car out of position. It will be the likes of Malotto from Kai K. That is the Ginetta in front of Leroux. So it's actually not going to be Leroux catching up to anyone or position, but certainly on track. Look how close Piens is getting to the back of Leroux here. Look how close Kadili is getting to the back of Piens. It is really getting hot in here, Ryan.
Yeah, it is. 5 minutes left to go on the clock. We have a three-way battle for 12th place. And, well, how many times have we seen it before, George? Three-way battle around a tight track like this. Someone's going to lose out big time, but we don't know exactly who. Many a time it's been the driver in the middle that seems to get all the pain. But, of course, Piens will be hoping that that's not the case this time round. Bruno Cadilli, who, like Jason Amsmeyer, has not had the best of races, he'll be hoping to make up a couple of places towards the end here, try and salvage the best that he can out of what's probably going to have to be a damage limitation race for a championship fight.
You know, it's exactly that. It's you know, every race counts. It's a 6-round series, and every possible point that you can accumulate is so important. So a round like this at Brands Hatch, one of the races where it is hard to have a good race if you struggle through, you know, every single point that you can scrounge together gonna count. But this is an incredible battle. Leroux, there comes the mistake number 1. Leroux wide, Piens through, Kadili through, and now Piens and Kadili together. Piens wide, Kadili possibly here. Ryan, did you just prophesize seeing that? I think you did.
Well, I said it so many times before, it's the car in the middle that usually ends up with the most pain, and it's turned out exactly that way. You know, I don't usually end up predicting things like this, but Piens is not, well, he's not given up yet. He's decided, you know what, I want this place back. If I'm going to be in the middle of the pack, I want to at least be ahead of someone, but he's overshot himself. That's going to allow Leroux back into it. And he is going to have the inside line. He's going to take the position. The Cayman drifts out, and he's going to be off, and he's hit the barrier. Big hit coming round. Does a 360. Does manage to point the nose in the right way, but that will be the end of that battle with Nathan Leroux. Leroux through. We saw them changing positions. Wide, they ran a little bit too wide onto the grass. The back end comes around for Piens in his Cayman. And that will end off the battle there. Kadili a little bit up the road in 12th. Where does he have to get to the likes of Bego Krobler? Bego Krobler coming in towards 30s, which means it's possible if there's a big mistake for him to jump up, but I don't think that's where we're going to see the battle. Warren Lee Sheehan and the likes of Stephen Tablanche, they're fighting out here. Stephen Tablanche having a look. Still in 21st place to Blanche, so trying to battle his position. 2 minutes to go on the clock. Yeah, and of course, well, Piens will be kicking himself, won't he? I mean, had a massive opportunity, but I mentioned it before. When you overtake, you have to keep it clean. You can't make a mistake around here. And it's just a perfect example of what making a mistake when you get an overtake opportunity come your way means. And you know, unfortunately for Piens, we're just trying a bit too hard to keep ahead of the Audi, and it's unfortunately not paid off for him. We're into the last 2 minutes of the race now, and Sheehan is under pressure at the moment from the 92 Aston Martin. And I would not be surprised if we see another couple of mistakes here from a few drivers coming into the last few minutes, the last crucial minutes of the race. It looks like it's going to be a comfortable win for Jordan Sherritt out front. Quade Claessens and Charles Wilkin look to have the podium locked down. But the rest of the field is all still to play for, as we actually have Bigger Grobler in the pit lane, George.
I mean, I don't know why he's in the pits. Has he underfueled the car? But that's going to allow Piens on through. Strauss gets up a position. It's certainly strange. Strauss has also got his hands full with the likes of Glashagen. They're chasing each other down for position. Strauss, no! Again! I've switched to him. My commentator's camera work has spun Strauss around. And the EKZ Mercedes now facing the wrong direction, possibly bleeding some positions, just trying to get it back on track. And not a safe. I think he's frustratedly reversed it into the wall to put things precisely, politely, should I say. Jordan Sherritt is going to be our race leader. He's going to get onto his final lap, and I'm going to follow some of the battles that we see if they pop up, Brian. So just call them up if you see some gaps for us to follow. But well, as it stands, Jordan Sherritt will be our camera car for the Raceface Speed Labs GTWR team.
Yeah, he's drove an absolutely, well, picture-perfect race, isn't it, so far? Took pole position, went into the first corner in the lead, finished the first lap in the lead, and he's just pulled the gap out from there. And it's been very, very comfortable. Well, probably not comfortable. It's never comfortable around this circuit, no matter how long you're driving around here, but he's definitely made it look easy, though it definitely isn't. And of course, he is going to pick up a very nice win here today at Brands Hatch, and a well-deserved one as well, I think.
Adding to the list of things that Jordan wins will be the GT4 round 2 at Brands Hatch tonight for Raceface. And it certainly is not his biggest accomplishment in sim racing, but it is one nonetheless. So Jordan will cross the line in first. Quade Claessens from ATK Racing will have a solid performance here in the Raceface round 2. Of course, I love the fact that he's joined up here and we get some ATK drivers in the field. Charles Wilkin finishes up 3rd. Morgan McCall, another ATK driver in the academy team at Reeds, but I'm not sure if he's quite across into the full team. 4th for him. JC Grobler, he gets a well-deserved 5th place. He could have found a little bit more if he could have held off McCall for a little longer. Johannes Kraling for Retro Sim Slipstream will take home 6th. Christos Basson in the BMW, the middle BMW in the finishing order, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Basson will take home 7th. Mark Antal 8th. 9th will go the way of the Camaro of Victor de Kock. 10th place to Junior McCall, also from ATK. So a really good showing from the ATK drivers here today. Bruno Cadilli will wrap up with an 11th place. Nathan LaRue will take home 12th. 13th for Kurt Glashigan. 13th for Kurt. Things will probably change up as drivers leave the order here, but we get the overall picture. It was a great race coming out, and all the way down to the line, Ryan, it's no one could really decide who the winners were going to be.
Yeah, like I said, this track does deliver in terms of entertainment. It's maybe not the kind of entertainment that everyone is particularly looking for. Overtakes are not easy around here, of course. You know, the GT4s can race a lot easier than the GT3s or some of the other cars that visit Brands Hatch, but the entertainment value is still very much there. And of course, big congratulations to the podium boys, and of course they will be benefiting a nice collection of points towards their championship tallies. And well, considering it's my first appearance here commentating for the GT4 Championship, George, where are you off to next weekend?
Ryan, to be honest, I'd have to double check for you where we go next week. So I'll pull that up on my side and just double check. I think it's Misano. Could be wrong. I think it is Misano. It will be Misano. So it will be Misano for next week, Wednesday. However, tomorrow night we will be back here in the same place on the Raceface YouTube channel doing the GT3 round for Brands Hatch. So if the GT4 round was anything to go by, the GT3 round is going to be good to watch as well. I'm keen to see how our drivers do in all of that. And to be honest, it was a better race than I expected. The GT4s definitely didn't disappoint here today. I'd just like to extend my thanks, of course, to Ryan Gill for making his way over and co-casting this event with me. It was something that I didn't want to do alone, and I'm glad that I could bring you out. You did a great job, Ryan, so thank you so much for joining. To our viewers, of course, thank you for joining. Thank you for the chat. Thank you for spamming the chat. Thank you for the likes. Thanks for the shares. Thanks for all the nice things that you say about us that you really don't have to say. Really does go a long way. So thanks to everybody that was here tonight. I think I could potentially get Jordan in here for an interview. I see there's some guys in the driver's briefing room, but I'm not sure if I didn't hear a mention of the interviews in the driver's briefing, so I don't want to just spring it on them. I know that we're doing driver's briefings for GT3 tomorrow, so we will have our winners up in the booth to hear their thoughts tomorrow evening. But for night, guys, thanks again for supporting us and making sim racing what it is today. I'll see you tomorrow night.